Okay, and welcome to our last and final civilized variation, our Phyre modding of the linears. And this one's called the Phyre UBER. As you can imagine, it takes its name partially from the Uber drill from the previous civilized variation section. And as you can also imagine, it's also a conglomeration and aggregation of the basic methods into one, kind of an all-in-one, just like the other one is with the drill axis method. So what we're going to be doing is putting together something that enables someone to be able to do fire plow, fire saw, fire thong, and with that also fire ribbon along with them. So we're going to be able to do 4-in-1 in this aspect. So it's going to look a little bit like the base, reloading base of the fire thong. And so what I've started off with here is a 2x12. So this is 3 foot by 2 by 12, and but in reality it's 1.5 by 11.25 inches by 36 inches. So, and what I'm going to do is lay these one on top of the other. They're going to crisscross, so I have to take out the middles. So much like when you build a log cabin, that kind of thing. So I've measured out the center section. This is just a little bit over 11.25 inches, so that the other one fits here. Okay. So what I've done is on my table saw, I've created a what's called a sled. And most woodworking shops will add a sled to the top of a table saw, and this allows you to like cut pieces in a miter fashion, where you could do angles and straight cuts and things like that, more controlled, especially when your fence, especially when things go beyond the fence. That is the device that goes on your table saw, so that you can rip things. So definitely a piece that's 36 inches goes way beyond the ability of a fence that you would put on a table saw. So therefore we have the sled. So what we do with the sled is, what that helps me do is cut out the middle. So I've set the height of the table saw blade to 3/4 of an inch, which is half of an 1.5 inches, which is what the width of the board is. And I started cutting out the center, as you can see. Okay, so this is a little bit over 11.25 inches. Now I'm going to do the other one, which is measured out, and then they're going to fit together like a log cabin section. So I've already sanded all the edges, taken off the splinters, rounded off the corners. So just got to cut out the middle of this one and then sand the middle a little bit, and then we're going to join them together. And then we're going to put the other pieces in that create the Phyre UBER. All right. So let me cut out the middle part of this one, and we'll join it together, and let's keep going. So I wanted to show you my table saw sled. So here we have a piece of plywood that has a backboard and a front board here. The front board also basically helps hold the plywood together, because you're going to rip through the center of the plywood. The blade comes through the center, okay, and it allows you to move the piece that you're working back and forth like this. So this is already set to a height of 3/4 of an inch. So it's going to cut and rip the piece that I'm working on. Okay. And I have it marked here as to the place in between that's going to get cut out. The sled has runners. Now, in most table saws, there's these 2 grooves here. And so what you do is you put runners in here. These happen to be 5/8 of an inch. And they fit in those grooves. And they allow everything to slide back and forth. So what we're going to do is I'm going to move quickly through cutting the center of this out, and let's get going. Okay, be right back. Okay, so I finished those cuts, and I've glued the pieces together in the center with epoxy, and now you can see this is going to be the bottom part here. So basically the top is on the other side. Here I've marked on the underside where the nuts are going to go, okay, to stand up the pieces that are going to hold the base reload inside. And I have 2 different sizes. Okay, they're both 3/8 of an inch in diameter, but you can see one is taller than the other. And so depending on the height of, or the size of the reload that I have, okay, for example, I have this sodal, which is large, and that'll fit that way. Or I might have a large piece of yucca, and that would fit these smaller ones here. Okay, so 3/8 of an inch in diameter, and the nuts are 5/8. So first I'm going to drill 5/8 inch holes, and these are 1 foot apart, here and here. So 5/8 inch holes, and then through that I'm going to drill 3/8 inch holes. That'll go to the top. Alright, and then I'm going to glue in the nuts, which will stay on the bottom, and carefully try to fit in the eye screws, which will go in through the top. Alright, I'm going to drill those holes, be right back. See you, bye.
Bye.
So the first thing I did was drill a 5/8 inch hole with the Forstner bit, okay? And then through that hole, I drilled a 3/8 inch hole all the way through. And so I put the eye screw along with the nut through the hole, pulled the nut through, and I have epoxied the nut inside. Now the screw can still come out, but the nut is going to stay. And then you'll see how I'll anchor it when we're done from the top side. So I still have to drill the 3/8 inch hole here on this one, and do the same with another eye screw and nut, and then I'll show you what I'll do top side. Okay, be right back. Okay, so I glued the nut in on the opposite side. So this is the top, and you can see the screw is sticking out here. Now the screw can go all the way through without any obstruction down to the nut, and we do that with both of them. Okay. Now, how that get all anchored down after that is, let's see, where are they? You take a washer with another nut. Okay. And this will go all the way down and screw into that one, and then what we'll do is tighten this knot down to the washer, and then that won't go anywhere when we're ready. So that's how that's really going to get tightened. Okay, but meanwhile, you can see that I've pre-drilled some holes, and we're going to screw these in. Even though these are glued together, we're going to anchor these really well with some short screws, wood screws. Okay, so I'm going to do that. I'll be right back. Okay, so I've drilled the screws in. Again, this is the top part, and as you can see, the eye screws are ready to go. These are the tall ones. Okay, and they stay in place with the nuts on top, screwed into the nuts on the bottom. Okay. And we're just about ready to give this a shot. The last thing I'm going to do, however, is, as you can see, I have four, let's say the four directions, north, south, east, and west on this thing. And so what I'm going to do is, these places are for kneeling, okay, depending on which method I'm doing and which direction I'm facing. So each one of these places here needs a kneeling pad. So what I'm going to do is be gluing, what I'm going to do is glue kneeling pads to each one of these and get them ready, and then we're going to do our first Phyre Uber. Okay, and alright, here we go. So a little change of plan. I'm not gonna glue pads here. I think that would be too much, especially when I'm transporting this around, and they're just gonna end up getting dirty, and they're eventually gonna get torn, and then I'm gonna have glued pieces of mat on each wing. So what I'm gonna do is, for now, is I have the large sponges that you get at the hardware store. I'm gonna place them down. They don't really go anywhere. They seem to have some friction and a grip. So what I'm gonna do is just put them, actually just carry two, and just kneel on those whenever I need a pad, and then I'll just pick them up and then move them over and move them around. So we're getting ready to prepare for our first Phyre Uber. This is my last piece of solder. This one measures, let's see, a little over 1.5 inches across on that side, and 1.75 inches on this side. This must be the larger side, yeah, because the leaves would go up this way. So this is my last piece, and it just happens to be the right size for what we're gonna do. So I'm gonna clean this up, get the bark off, smooth it down, prepare it, and you'll see how I place this on the Phyre Uber in a second. All right, be right back. Okay, so I put this on the belt sander, and I just kind of cleaned it up a little bit. It's not perfect, but I just need for it to be cleaned up. It has a little bit of a bend in it. I don't know if you could see as I turn it a little bit. So that really shouldn't interfere too bad. I'm going to try and make the most of this piece. It's my last piece of soda right now. So, alright, so we're going to get this ready for our Phyre Uber over here, and let's keep going. Alright, so I added a little bit of artwork to my Phyre Uber device here. So depending on which direction I'm facing, I'm actually doing a different method. So if I'm facing this way, like where I'm at, if I'm facing this way, I'm probably doing Phyre Plow. You can see. I'm probably doing Phyre Plow. If I'm facing this way on my Phyre Uber, I'm doing Phyre Saw. If I'm facing this way, I'm probably doing Phyre Ribbon, and I kind of just made up a kanji character for that real quick. I don't really have one. It just seemed like it would be weird with an empty space. Now, Phyre Thong, I wouldn't be kneeling, I would be standing, but I would probably be facing this direction. So therefore, if I'm standing in that direction, facing that direction, I'm not necessarily kneeling on the wings. But so for each direction that I'm facing, I'm doing a different method. So it's 4 and 1, and so I'm trying to prepare my base reload. This is a reloading base. This is a base reload, and so for future base reloads, now I already have the nuts buried in there. So I could do one of two things. I can either take something sharp and thin, put it through the hole with my base reload underneath, like this, and kind of eyeball it, mark it like that, and cut the holes out so that the screws fit through. But I'm very wary that that might not be accurate enough. So what I've done is I've made a mold. This is a leftover piece of oak banister, solid oak banister from the hardware store that I had cut some sections off. So what I did was I measured exactly the space of these two holes. It was supposed to be a foot long, 12 inches, but it really ends up being 11 and 7/8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 11 inches and 7/8. So that's what I did here. I measured out 11 inches 7/8, and I made 2 marks where I could put my base reload on there and look from above with these marks, line it up, hold it straight, and then vise it down as best as I can. I could probably use C-clamps to make sure it really doesn't move. And then what I can do is drill, literally take the drill, because I can't drill through these holes, and just drill through these holes and right through the base reload. So here we go. One more. Let's make sure that's tightened down real well. clean up those fibers from the other side. And so in theory, let's get that screw off there. This fits through, and then this fits through to the nuts. I just have to clean the hole there. There we go. There we go. Just have to make a few minor adjustments with that, but there you go, it's set in there. And now I'm ready to do 3 out of the 4. So if I'm, let me clear this off for a minute. So we're going to keep our mold. I'm going to put that aside for later, for when I have some new material. So again, here the one toward me is Phyre Plow. Okay, so I'm facing this way. So here I would be doing, I'd be kneeling on here, and I'm doing Phyre Plow. Okay, if I'm facing this way, it's hard to see, but the one in front of me is marked Phyre Saw. So here I would be doing Phyre Saw. So I would have a hole placed here, which I'm going to drill later. Okay. Now I'm right-handed, so I want my guide hand in front and my dominant power hand in the rear, and so I would be going this way. I wouldn't do it on this side, I'd do it on this side. Hence is why you have to keep turning it around. Now, to do fire ribbon, this actually has to come off, and the 2 eye hooks are going to suspend in a hammock-like fashion, just like you saw with the blade reloads that would go in here, and I would be doing the fire ribbon that way. Okay, and the last one, here I have Phyre Thong on this side, and so I'm not really going to be on this side. What I would be is straddling here and here, and doing, and since I did Phyre Saw on this side, it's hard to see, Phyre Saw on this side, I have another hole, and here I'm standing with my feet here, and I'm doing Phyre Thong that way. Okay, so that's the idea. So 4 and 1. Now I wouldn't take this off to do fire ribbon. I would do all 3 primal basics, and then I would do the fire ribbon last. But really what this is designed for, okay, which I really can't wait to do, is that I'm going to drill another hole that goes in perpendicular this way, okay, here and here. And then, so I'm going to do Phyre Plow, Phyre Saw, Phyre Thong, and then I'm going to turn it a quarter of the way. And then I can do all 3 again. Phyre Saw, Phyre Thong, Phyre Plow, turn it a quarter of the way. So essentially, in theory, my hypothesis is that I should be able to get all 3 primal basics times 4 out of one base reload for this. So that's my plan on what I'm going to show you. But first, we have to get the nuts and the washers set up so that our base reload doesn't move at all. And I have to drill the other holes that go in this side, and I have to do the holes for the fire saw, fire thong, and I'm just going to start grooves on all 4 sides around for the fire plow. So again, I'm going to prepare more of the base reload, get it ready, and then we'll get started. All right, let's keep going. So here's what I've done so far. Now my mold that I made for drilling into my base reload, one of the things that I did was I took my router and I put a 5/8 inch groove in the middle of it, and if this was perfectly round, it would sit nicely in the groove, and then when it's clamped down on both sides, I could drill right through, and then everything should be nice and equal. And as you can see, I did a little bit more artwork on here too. So I have the Phyre UBER, and the kanji for that is going to be across for the device I have here. And as you can see, I have the 4 devices that 4 methods that the Phyre UBER does with their respective kanjis. So let's put this aside again. One of the things that could happen is I'm probably not going to, if I use this for demonstration purposes, I usually, well, I really only do the Primal 8 basics with a few variations whenever I do demonstrations. So if ever I use this, I bust this out to use, I would probably only ever do the linears. So the fire plow, fire saw, fire thong. But I wouldn't do, I probably would not do fire ribbon. And that's what I would need the eye hooks for. So if I'm doing a demo, I don't need these. I could just use regular 3/8 inch screws and just pop them in there, and that maybe will save a question or two as to why they're eye hooks. The other thing too is, just in case, the eye hooks take up a lot of space. So just to open up that space, okay, if I'm doing the fire saw or too close to the screw, then I don't have to worry. So, but I'll be using the eye screws. So, and I have different sizes here, depending on the sizes of the base reloads that I may come across. So we're going to put these aside for now. And of course, from before, I have the shorter eye screws from before. So I'm starting to get ready. Have my fire plow blade, my hickory fire saw blade, my rattan fire thong here, and I used this at a demonstration for some Boy Scouts at a council meeting, and I got at least one more. I can get one more out of there, I really think. So what I'm going to do is use this until it snaps, and then when it snaps, I'll just make more from my supply. and put them in the attach the toggles to them afterwards. So now what I did to the base reload, you can see this is an awful makeup job, but what I did was and it's kind of hard to see, but I put grooves in. There's 4 for each of the 4 turns, so I outlined them in black marker so you could see them there. It's very hard to see. The red ones here are fire saw holes, and if I do a 180, those are the other holes. Okay. Now I'm going to take advantage of the material because I don't want anything to go to waste. Take advantage of the material that I have on the very ends and do fire plow on there. And as you can see, there are only 2 sides. And if I flip it over on the other side, you get the same thing. Okay, so what I'll do is, at least the plan is, do a fire plow, do a fire saw on one end, fire thong on the opposite end, okay, and then do a 180, do fire plow, fire saw, fire thong. So fire saw is on top on one side, fire thong will be underneath on the opposite side. So when I flip it over and do the 180, fire saw on one side, fire thong underneath on the other side. So what I don't want to have happen is to completely cut through my base reload and then it's ruined. So I'm taking advantage of the material that I have, and then when I do a quarter turn, and as you can see here by the black mark, there are 4 turns that the screw is going to go in. This is the screw holes. Okay, so then I'll have it on at a quarter turn. This side will be up. So this side will be a saw. Under here will be a fire thong. We do the 180 after the fire. We do the fire plow. So we do the fire plow. We do the last fire saw and the last fire thong, and that's supposed to be the plan. All right. So let me, now that we're ready to go, I'm going to get this set up here. Fire plow, fire saw, fire thong, and then once I do 4 rounds of fire plow, fire saw, fire thong, we're just going to do 1 round of fire ribbon, okay? And just leave it at that. So, just so I don't have to like take everything apart and all together. So, all right, here we go. Let's keep going. Okay, so we're ready to do our first set of 3 primal basic linears. And how my base reload is set up is it's designed to withstand forces from every single direction. So down, so if I'm doing fire saw, the pressure is applied downward. So the nut and washer here on both sides keep the base reload from going down. It gets pulled up, an upward force from the fire thong, so the eye screw or the top of another screw would keep this from being pulled up and released. And also with fire saw, actually with fire saw and fire thong, there's somewhat of a unilateral force going on. So both eye screws keep it from being moved back and forth, the base, side to side. Alright, and then of course the eye screws also, from this point of view, keep the when doing fire plow, keeps that stable and in place. So 3 stabilizations, 4 stabilizations for 4 methods, because we'll do fire ribbon last. All right, so let's. I'm going to put this on the floor. So we're going to do fire plow first. We're going to do all 3 in a row. I'm going to try not to break the video and edit. So here's our sponges. And they go there. Okay. Let me adjust the camera. I'm going to try and keep everything as best as I can in frame. Alright. So, this hasn't been mated, but we're going to do all 3. Mating, warming up, and going for it. This is Sodal on Sodal, by the way. Sodal blade, as you know, Sodal base. Two seconds. Just to I need a better groove. Keep things in balance. It's widening up. Let's do the other side. My groove isn't very straight. So we're mating still. Almost. It's good you see. I have my problems too. I don't want to go too deep because I don't want to get into the soft wood. But let's see if we can't just remedy this as we go. I have to make this again. And there's our coal. Sorry it took so long. Okay, so that's one. Let's not break. Let's see how my energy holds up. Let's clean off. I think I was right about the sponges. Fire saw. So we turn the dial, in a sense. Fire saw is facing me here as a logo. And I'm going to go right here. Okay. So here's our hickory blade. And I'm going to adjust myself here. Oh, you know what I need to do? I need to keep the dust from falling down below the other side. So I'm going to shove some jute I have here and stuff that in there so stuff doesn't go anywhere. Alright. So I have to get this mated because that's just a groove. Mated, warmed up. So my hole's not even full because it's so deep. So what I'm going to do is have some, oops. We're in real time here. Just going to take some dust. That's real coal extender. That's real wood dust from previous friction fire devices. Maybe just a hair more. That really was too deep. Fix our blade. Luckily that didn't go too deep. Let's keep going. Have to warm this up again. Let's get rid of some sidewall friction. Just for laughs. No dust at all. Well, what I'm going to do is do the fire thong, come back to that. So what we're going to do is the underside of this one here on the opposite side. So let's flip this around, and I'll work on that one again. think this rattan still has some life in it. Warmed up. There we go. Nice and smooth. So it's in there. Let me drop it out. Give me a second here to push it out. Oh, dropped it literally. There we go. And there we go. There's our Phyre thong. That's 2 out of 3. Should have turned that off. That's all right. All right, so let's address this one. We'll line that up again. I wonder if I have too much surface area now. Okay. All right. I'm going to get rid of some extra material. Since it started to bow out, sorry. Has an archway in the middle of it. Let's even that up. Okay. Let me give myself a little bit more room here. I'm going to have to call that one a fail. It's really too deep. That's too much surface area. There's too much sidewall friction now. So what I'm going to do is rest up, and I'm going to do another full set when I come back. Okay? Be right back. Alright, so we're going to do round 2 in a second. But there's something that I realize now after having done this, actually, it taught me a lesson. Now, when I go through all the drill access methods, I go from less pieces, more effort, to more pieces, less effort. I go from hand drill up to toggle drill, as you know, usually when I'm teaching. However, I realize that I put the linears in alphabetical order instead of doing them from a energy point of view. So, not that that matters. That really doesn't matter, because that's not such a big deal. They're all two-piece. They all require effort. But I've always, in demonstration, in times, I've always defaulted to fire plow, fire saw, fire thong, and that's in alphabetical order. But what I'm realizing is, in demonstration purposes, as I already do with the drill access methods, is do them in order of what is the most energy tiring to the least energy tiring. And for me, fire saw is always the more energy tiring. So fire plow, you'd think would require a lot of energy, but it really doesn't once you get it down. So, and a lot of times with demonstration purposes, I'm just doing bamboo, which is actually easier energy-wise, in my opinion, than a domestic wood bamboo and not a grass. It's easier to do a bamboo fire saw, in my opinion, than it is, which is a grass, than a wood fire saw, a domestic fire saw. So since I'm doing a domestic fire saw, I'm going to change my order to do fire saw, fire plow, fire thong, instead of fire plow first. And that's just something that I've realized now, because I don't do that in a demonstration usually. I will vary something where I'll do fire plow, and then I'll show fire saw bamboo, and then reverse fire saw, which is a domestic, just to show that it can be done with a wood. But I think, in my opinion, when I do the technique or variation of fire saw as a reverse, where I'm holding the base and moving it along the blade, that to me is easier than doing a blade on top of a base. So for this next round, I'm going to do fire saw, fire thong, fire saw, fire plow, and then fire thong. All right, just so you understand the change and why. So my lesson is well, this whole thing is about education. So learn from what I have for you as your sensei. Okay. All right. One of the reasons too is that would never come up in a survival situation. You'd be in a survival situation, you go, let me see. Should I do the fire thong first? Should I do the fire plow first? But and that's how I was thinking with the drill access methods, but I wasn't thinking that with the linear methods when I put them in order. So if you're going to do linear methods, in a way, in a demonstration, that has survival value, because you have to go through the demonstration in front of people, and you need as much energy. You need to use the most energy you can on the method that requires the most energy first, and then move through to the one that needs the least amount of energy. So, in case you ever do a demonstration, and that has, in a way, survival value. All right. So let's do this again. Let me throw this on the floor. All right, here we go. All right, so here we go. Got my pads. And I sharpened up my hickory blade. That's a 1/4 inch. And for me, that's pretty thick in width. All right. Now, just to grab the camera here for a second. As you can see, there is nothing in the hole for the fire saw on my right side. And for the fire thong, there's nothing in the hole. And so the fire thong is going to be under here. Okay. Fire plow will be here. This is flipped 180, by the way. So you can see that the fire thong we just did is on top. The fire saw we did earlier is on the bottom here. Okay. Oh, sorry. There we go. But there's nothing in the holes. So I'm going to stuff this hole here with the jute. I'm going to fill it with some dust. So let me get the dust. Make sure everything's in frame. Okay. Where's the dust? There we go. Now, with fire saw, what I did last time too was I broke my own rule in that I used the same hole twice. Usually if a hole doesn't pan out, I don't use it again, especially on a wood domestic fire saw. Usually I would just never, I mean bamboo, even bamboo, because the walls are so thin, I would never, well, just to say, as a general rule, with fire saw, I don't use the same hole twice. Alright, if it doesn't go, it doesn't go. Gotta do a new one. Alright, so I fashioned a new blade on my fire plow. And the other thing too is, we know the fire thong works. I mean, I just showed it to you. But look how thin the what I have left. So here we have the extension arms, but here in the middle I've gotten two coals out of this. One at a Boy Scout demonstration, one you just saw. Can I get a third? We already know it works, but I'm just going to take this opportunity to test the limits. So our width on this is, I mean, it's a hair. Oh, it's a hair under 1/8 of an inch. So can I get a coal with the rattan being under 1/8 of an inch? Inquiring minds want to know. But first, let's get this fire saw, shall we? Fire saw, fire plow, fire thong. So the other thing too is I'm going to get this really warmed up. It's in there, but can I get it out before it burns out? Let's see. Have to push. It needs more air. Needs it right away. There we go. There you are. So that was my most labor intensive. So from this point on, should be golden, okay? Okay, fire plow. Let's put this aside. Thank you. All right. Let's flip our device. Now the trouble I had earlier with fire plow, fire plow is the funniest of the methods due to its lack of a notch. And one of the things that always bothers me, and I'm going to show you here, because this is important, and I kind of mentioned this in the fire plow section. That's why I've created what's a fence to hold the dust together so it doesn't just splay everywhere. And we don't have a flat surface. We have a somewhat rounded surface. So what happens is when dust goes on it, it doesn't necessarily stay in one place. It falls to the sides. So flattening out the stroke area is going to increase the ability for the dust to stay in one place. It's not just going to roll off the side. Okay. So let's make our groove. Again, I usually like to go backwards actually. Start from the top, work back, and go forward. Backward. Backward. Okay. So we flattened our area a little bit. That's going to be a big help. Now I'm just going to mate this together on one side just to widen it. Alright, that should work. Now I'm going to flip it over to the wider, shorter side. Sit up here. Alright, let's do this. And remember last time I kept slipping off the side. That's one of the problems of it being rounded. And there's our goal. And there's one here on the side. There's one here. There's one there. Right there. And right there. Alright. You can see the burn mark right there. I just did. Alright. Can we get this very thin fire thong to go? That's the question. I'm going to tilt this to the side a little bit for you. Again, I don't kneel, I stand on the sides. So let's see how we do. Get this nice and warmed up. Warming it up is going to make it more flexible. I think we got it. Oh yeah. Let's close that in. Here's my file. Let's push that down. Let me get a put the fire saw underneath it. There we go. 1, 2, 3. Oh, there's more in there. Let's hang it on the bottom. This way. All right. Whoops, you can't see that. There we go. And we got one more out of that. So that was 3. So tell you what I'm going to do. I'm not going to do the other 2. Meaning that I'm not going to do this side and I'm not going to do this side, the quarters. Since this is my last piece of sodal, I'm just going to save it for demonstration purposes for Boy Scouts. And I'm sure you would understand. Since you've seen the Phyre UBER work for the primarily basics, for those 3 linears, you can see it pulls itself off, right? All right, so now I'm going to hook up a Phyre ribbon between the eye screws and we'll be done. All right, be right back. Okay, let's do one more. Why not, right? Since we're just fooling around having fun. Another variation. So let's do a reverse fire saw and let's fire hack a new wood. Let's do maple. This is a soft maple that I got ordered online from somewhere. And so what we do is we line up the eye screws, okay, and what I did was I took my my mold that I use, and obviously you need a blade that's longer than a foot for this to work, because it's 12 inches to the screws, so the blade needs to be longer than that. Okay, so I use the mold to drill through the holes to where the eye screws would be. But what we're going to do this time is we're going to take bolts with washers and nuts, okay, and we're going to put them through like this. Washers on both sides, and then a nut to screw that in. Okay. Sorry, that's a real long screw. And so we do the other side. There we go. Do that real quick. There we go. And we tighten those down as hand tight as we can get them. Okay. So we're going to do a new 5/16 inch hole there, this one here. And you can see there's nothing else in all the other holes as well, just in case you want to see. So in the back end, I'm going to put some jute. Okay, so for that one there. And so we need to get this mated, warmed up, and ignited. Again, with the domestic fire saw, the reverse one that's not bamboo, I do prefer base on blade. I think it's much, much easier. And there's our coal. Alexa's going to help me out. Right there. Harder. Oh, maybe we let it go out and waited too long. Oh, we waited too long. All right, well, let's do it again. Okay, here we go. Okay, back up, Alexa. Let's do another hole. We're going to do this one here. Put the jute in there. Okay. This time I won't wait so long to get it out. It probably smothered to death. And there it is. Oh. So maple blade, soft maple. I'm sorry I can't tell you exactly what kind of maple it is. On yucca. So we're ready to, so we're getting ready to do our Phyre ribbon version of the Phyre UBER. Okay. And we're going to do something with bamboo, but different. And that is, I'm going to find it. Instead of doing bamboo chopstick, which is a thick wall bamboo, okay, solid bamboo, we're going to do a bamboo stake. As you can see here, there's a node here. And I have it marked red here where I'm going to cut. And on the opposite side, have the other node here, and it's marked red here where I'm going to cut. And this is 11 inches long. So that should fit in between the eye screws down there, which are a foot long, 12 inches. So I'm going to cut these, put some holes in here for some cord to tie down to the eye screws, and we're going to give this a shot. So, like with all the other versions of Phyre ribbon reloading blades, I'm going to shave the top, but I'm going to leave the bottom alone. I would leave, if it's wood, I would leave the bark on, but in this case, bamboo has this natural sheen to it, like a glaze, and I'm going to leave that on for strength. Okay, so I'm just going to take the glaze off the top part where I'm going to be doing the friction. Okay. So I'm going to cut this, put the holes in, prepare it, and put it on the Phyre UBER, and we'll be right back. Okay, so this may be a little bit hard to see, but I've drilled the holes. I cut the ends. As you can see, the red is still on those ends by the nodes. And on the back, well, I should say on the top, I took off the glaze, the sheen, but on the back I left it. And to make sure I had it all marked with X's. As you can see, that's shinier in the light than it is on top, which is dulled down. Okay, so I'm going to attach this now to the ice screws. Be right back. Okay, so I think we're ready to get started. I put a brand new hole in my yucca. So we're going to use this one here. Okay, as you can see, there's nothing in there. So on this end, I'm going to put some jute to hold the heat in. Okay. So it should be nice and stable. And we're ready to give it a shot. So it needs to be mated, warmed up, and ignited. Oops, sorry about that. Let me back up. Try not to do that again. Starting to brown. And we got our coal. Whoops, sorry. I was out of camera. And there we go. Bamboo steak. Much like this one. With the sheen shaved off the top. Yucca base. Fire hacked that one. Alright. So, that's pretty much it for Phyre UBER for now. And so now, I'm not going to do an epi, but we're going to move on to the epimethei section of the linears of the civilized variations of fire modding. So one of the things I'm going to talk about, like I said before, is the fire planes of the Upper Chinookan. Alright, so let's keep going.